Hello, welcome to today's webinar. We've got a great topic queued up for everyone today, uncovering B2B marketing and branding in manufacturing. I'm Lori Highby, CEO and founder of Keystone Click. We are a strategic digital marketing agency helping our clients build brand awareness and generate leads online. My guest today is Scott Seroka. Scott is the president of Soroka Industrial Branding, providing fractional CMO services to small to medium-sized industrial companies. Scott's approach, to creating effective marketing strategies is centered on building strong, compelling, and well-differentiated brands and activating brands within organizations through organizing and mobilizing continuous improvement cultures. He's a certified brand strategist and also a Six Sigma Lean Black Belt professional. Scott, welcome.
Great to be here, Lori.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. I know you've got a lot of experience, especially when it comes to branding. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Scott has a ton of great insights and perspectives that I think everyone is going to be able to find some value in. If you do have any questions as you jump on, feel free to shoot a message in the chat. Otherwise, let's dive in here. So Scott, some of the most common branding questions you get, I'm guessing, is, and maybe you can answer them right away for us. So what is a brand and how does that really differ from marketing? Because I feel like a lot of people kind of get those confused.
Well, if you look at the definition of branding, for example, in Google, you'll get, I don't know, maybe millions of different responses or definitions. But what they all boil down to is that what a brand needs to be is a unique set of distinctions that you and your company own that make a positive and noteworthy difference in the lives of your customers. Not just the external customers who buy from you, your products and services, but also the internal customers. And I want to point that out because we are especially, we're trying especially hard right now to find and recruit and maintain and retain high quality people. And you need a good customer brand as well as you need a good employer brand as well. The way that differentiates from marketing, or it's different from marketing is the tactical application of promoting the brand through different marketing channels, whether it's digital, direct marketing, email campaigns, trade shows, what have you. But companies need to have a strong brand to promote first, because if they don't do so, there's a higher risk of promoting a brand that's soft, blurry, or says, hey, we're just like everybody else.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of working with organizations that have a strong brand and understand that consistency with that brand is going to drive better, greater results from the marketing initiatives at the end of the day. I know I've had this challenge before, and I'm sure you've heard of it, but oftentimes some companies will question the investment into branding or marketing because they feel they have a strong sales team or salesperson that's bringing in sales. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. There's a lot to be said about having high quality salespeople, and those are also very hard people to find right now. But the point of branding, which is promoted through marketing, really helps facilitate the sales process. And it makes the jobs of salespeople a whole lot easier if they can go to their customers, and when everything appears equal, when 3 or 4 brands look pretty much similar, they can pull something out and say, yes, but we do this better than anybody else. Something that's meaningful, something that's relevant, something that's timely, and something that really pushes the prospective customer over the edge in terms of making the purchase. Not only important for acquiring new customers, but also retaining existing customers, because you never know who's working on improving or enhancing their brand out there that's going to come out today or tomorrow with something that looks really good and really appealing that makes customers wonder, I wonder if I should maybe consider this company because they seem to have something really good going on.
Yeah, I think that's a solid, solid definition there. And I'd also add to the argument of, salespeople, they're building their own brand. And oftentimes, if they're leaving and going to a competitor, for example, they've built the brand around themselves as opposed to leaning in and advocating for your specific brand in your organization.
Exactly. They need to have that sales tiebreaker, because without it, it just makes sales a whole lot more difficult, and it just extends that sales period weeks, if not months, because quite honestly, customers have a hard time making decisions because it's higher risk making it the wrong decision.
Yep.
Yep.
So when we're looking at customers, I think a lot of questions that I've heard, I'm sure you have as well, is why do you think an investment should be made in understanding the voice of the customer?
Because they're the reason that you're in business. And it's amazing how many companies decide not to do it because they say, we know our customers, we have great relationships with them. That's good. And that's good to have that level of confidence. However, whenever we've done VOCs, or voice of customer studies, there's always something, one or two pieces of information that were just unexpected in terms of the perception of your company, who else they were considering before they decided to do business with you, why they decided to do business with you versus the many competitors that a company has. How do they view your strengths, weaknesses? What are their opportunities? What do you have as a company to strengthen those customer relationships? If you don't do a VOC, you never really understand that, because you're not going to do a formal interview one-on-one with a customer. You might, but in general, getting that intelligence is really valuable. Not only that, but customers really appreciate being asked the question.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I specifically liked where I call them little golden nuggets, where we find out something that your customer or my customer may not have realized about their customer,
Right.
and that's usually more times than not that differentiator that they're stuck trying to figure out, how do we differentiate ourselves in this big space. So voice of customer, extremely powerful. And I 100% agree that it's worth the time and energy to invest in that research.
At least once a year. Highly recommended.
Why do you think it's so important that our employees know about our brand and what it stands for?
They want to know. And company owners may think that they don't care, especially people in production. They may not care about the brand. But the bottom line is, people want to know that they're working for a vibrant, lively company, one that has a good mission, a good vision, a good position in the market, because they want to know of a certain level of security that the company is going to be around for a while, that it's going to be stable, that it's going to be a formidable and worthy competitor. And I've delivered internal brand launches many times, and it's kind of surprising how many people you would never expect raise hands and ask questions about the brand and about the company, because although you may think they don't want to know, they certainly do. And when you think about people in sales, service, production, and executive leadership, and marketing, HR, IT, you name it, everybody really wants to have an understanding of what company am I working for and what do we stand for. And again, if they are thinking about, maybe I should start exploring my options, what other companies are out there, it really helps to have an understanding of a solid brand foundation for their mindset.
Yeah. And people want to be proud of the organization that they work for, and having some clarity around the brand makes it a lot easier to be public advocates of the organization as well. So in the manufacturing industry, oftentimes we hear that, it's the person that's going to fulfill the order first or gets the best price. That's all that they think their customers care about. Can you speak to how branding actually plays a role in this?
Sure, because it's a good question to address, because we all have heard the phrase, when you compete on price, it's a race to the bottom. You just can't survive that way. That's why branding is so critical, is because you need to look very, very deep internally, be very introspective, and truly understand, why am I in business? What void am I filling? What difference am I making? What problems is my company solving? How am I taking care of customers? Truly understanding the value that you provide that goes far beyond just, well, how much is it? Or
Mhm.
how soon can I get it? So do you have engineering expertise? Do you have product expertise? Are you responsive? Do you have great service? What are some intellectual property attributes that you may have? Are you 24/7? What kind of supports do you have? I mean, there's so many elements that go into building a brand and promoting a company. It's a lot more than just price, because if it was just price, I mean, Walmart would be it and everybody else would be out. That's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
So that's why building a strong brand, not having one that's weak or blurry, is so, especially in the manufacturing industry, because yeah, it's tougher to make a decision, especially if you're in distribution. A lot of companies are selling the same product, but why are they buying from one company versus another?
Mhm.
And when you're manufacturing an actual product, for the most part, companies make great products and warranties are similar, quality is similar, service is similar. There's so many similarities, but you need to take the time to understand, why do customers really buy from us? And that goes back to the question of the VOC, is
Mhm.
understanding what is it? And sometimes it
Mhm.
just comes down to the chemistry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know we had a client, and this is probably one of my favorite case studies to talk about, where established organization, 40 something years in business, and they thought for the longest time, and this is when they approached us, that people bought from them because they were the lowest price solution.
Mhm.
And after we did a lot of research and had some conversations with their customers, we learned that people like working with them because of their customer service. Their customer service always brought ideas to the table, and they were very responsive. So they were positioning themselves as the low price solution, when the reality is they had
Mhm.
high level customer service, and that can change your entire perception, you know.
Right.
So it is important to get on the same page for how you're positioning yourself and how you're being perceived.
And sometimes I hear the stories of, I love working with this company because Bill really takes care of me. I
Yeah.
mean, he knows what I need. He understands me. He understands my business. I can get it cheaper somewhere else, but I know that if I work with Bill and I work with this company, it's an easy decision and it's one less headache I have to worry about.
Yeah, love that. So I'm sure you get asked this question quite a bit, and I'm assuming you would answer it the same way that I answer it. But how much does branding cost?
A lot less, a whole lot less than not doing it. And it goes back to my original statement. If you're putting marketing dollars behind a brand that is not adequately, properly, strongly differentiated,
Mhm.
you're just promoting weakness and just, me too, we also do this. And you're just making the whole pool more confused of
Mhm.
potential customers, because you're, I almost call it a camouflage. It's like you're seen, but you're not really seen.
Sure.
And that's why it's so incredible to go out there and be courageous, dynamic, and be very firm in who you are and what you stand for. Take a risk. But whatever your brand is, turns out to be, you need to not only promote that heavily, but we get into this a little bit later in our relationships, is making sure everybody internally understands the brand so they know how to deliver upon the brand and the brand promise. So not branding is, it's hard to stay in business.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely worth the investment, not just from a sales. I mean, at the end of the day, the bottom line is what's important, right? How many dollars are coming in the door, but having that internal buy-in, as we talked about, your team, your employees getting on the same page makes it a lot easier for the external world to really understand, so that, if someone's chatting with the guy running the machines about what does your organization do, he's saying the exact same thing that the CEO is saying and the sales guy are saying.
Mhm.
Everyone's talking the same story. Really helps to elevate the brand, which creates trust too from that buyer's positioning.
One other thing to mention is, some companies believe we have a great reputation, we live off of referrals, but deep down, most business owners know that's not sustainable. Because
Mhm.
if you're just living off referrals, imagine what your potential is if you were living off of more than just referrals and you had much more inbound and you had much more people getting interested in your brand. For the aggressive growth company, a strong brand is absolutely necessary.
Totally. So we just heard some of the most popular questions that we see related to branding. Let's talk about the questions that you wish people would be asking you.
Sure.
And yeah, so what are some of those questions that you wish people would ask about branding? And how would you answer it too?
Well, should I hire a marketing agency or advertising agency? Should I hire freelancers? Should I have my own internal marketing team? Should I hire a fractional CMO? What should I do? It's not really an either or question, but you'll need to assess each. And I actually wrote an article about this not too long ago. Working with the marketing agency is a large scale commitment. Typically, you work with a team of people who are going to service your account. And there's a lot of advantages to that. But if they have turnover or if a key person leaves, sometimes you don't really know about it and you may notice a difference in quality. The other thing I caution against with an ad agency, because I've been doing that for 25 years plus, is if you're not a big enough client, the team that pitched you may introduce you to their B team. And I think that most people understand what that means. If you work with freelancers, you're going to spend a lot of your time managing them, keeping them on the same page. How do they work together? Is there a good chemistry between them? That could be an issue. If you work with a fractional CMO, which is what I do, one of the key benefits of that is having somebody who's going to lead the marketing effort, manage those relationships, make sure things get done. And one person at the company is in charge of the entire movement. So the other aspect of that is that an agency is not going to spend time within your facility or office. They may, but usually not. Fractional CMO will spend some time at the company, but it's not, nothing's perfect for everybody, but it really comes down to, you may have a fractional managing an agency relationships with freelancers, and there's all types of different options. Yeah.
And I think there's pros and cons to each, and it really, and there isn't really a one size fits all solution either. It's finding, where you are in your branding and marketing journey, and kind of what pieces of the puzzle do you have to fill, and finding the best solution that fits those needs.
One of the other questions is, what's the ROI of branding? And that's when you have to talk to the chief financial officer and the CEO, because how much do I spend and how soon can I get it back? And that's pretty much the bottom line. And that's the approach that you absolutely have to take, because especially now, as you understand, Lori, and I think most people in marketing, is that marketing now is more measurable than it ever has been. I mean, absolutely. It's just clicks, likes, shares, conversions, you name it, what's happening, where are we getting our sales from? That is so trackable right now. The short answer to a very complex question of the ROI of marketing is an increase in sales. And if the marketing isn't causing an increase in sales, you have to reassess that and find out what's going on. But my belief, and nobody will change my mind because I'm stubborn, is marketing, the sole purpose of marketing, the only purpose of marketing is to help sales. Increase brand awareness, sure. Have people get interested in your products and services, absolutely. But the bottom line is, the lifeblood of a company is sales, and marketing and sales need to work hand in hand every single day and collaborate to make sure that sales gets what they need from marketing to bring in a new piece of business.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I actually wrote a LinkedIn article not too long ago about sales and marketing, and there's so much data out there that says when sales and marketing departments are on the same page, they generate higher results.
And there's a lot of companies that don't do that. And, it's some salespeople say, yeah, we have a marketing department, but it takes forever to get anything done, or it's not,
Yep.
it's not up to my standards. So I'll go print my own darn brochure off the Epson printer because it takes 6 weeks to get something out of our 8-person marketing team.
Mhm.
That's not uncommon, or
Yeah.
from our agency. So it's very much a culture thing versus a just 2 departments working together.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. What's another question that you wish folks would ask about branding?
What are the signs and symptoms of a poor brand? There's quite a few. If you are jealous of a competitor, that's a good sign that it may be time to rebrand.
Okay.
Okay. If everybody else is doing good and you're not doing so good, that's a good reason to rebrand.
Mhm.
If sales are down, if you notice that your customers or find out that they went to a competitor who's doing something a little better, or maybe not. But if they're, as you hear the phrase, I'm going to go explore my options, that means that I'm gone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different elements that should trigger somebody to think, I really should take a look at my brand, because oftentimes companies don't have a marketing problem, but they have a branding problem.
Mhm. Mhm. And when you say rebranding, I want to clarify, that just doesn't mean a new logo, right?
No, not at all.
Can you address that too? Because I feel like a lot of people just think, oh, new brand means a new logo.
A new brand is really taking the time to research and be introspective and truly understand why you're in business and why you're doing it.
Mhm.
And our branding process involves doing competitive research, doing a voice of the customer, doing a voice of the employee, because employees are extremely insightful. And really having a day of discovery of yourselves with a good facilitator to ask the right questions, ask the painful questions, because oftentimes the answers that we need to see are in the places that we don't want to look. So we need to look there. And sometimes after discovery phase, a conclusion is drawn that, well, we're not really anything special. You need to adjust your mindset to think, well, what are we capable of becoming? What are the assets that we have internally? What could we focus on? What are, let's take an inventory of our people and find out what they could make, what kind of contribution they could make to a stronger brand. So you have a brand today, but you have to focus on that brand of the future. So it's much more than a logo, which is just a visual representation. However, when you think about it, a brand is what people think about when they hear your name or see your logo. And that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But
oh yeah.
if people hear your name or see your logo, some thought comes to mind.
Yep.
And maybe no thought comes to mind, which, you need to work on that. But what is that thought?
Yep.
Is it a good thought? Is it helping you win more sales? Those are things that you have to really start to think about.
Yeah, that's great. I know there's so many more questions I'm sure you wish folks would be asking, but why don't you just give us one more question?
Sure. How do you activate your brand versus just putting something new copy on a website? Because once we have a brand new brand, new value propositions, new brand promise, we have a new tagline, great, we're ready to go. Well, we have it on paper, but now what? And that's where things start to fall apart. So there's something called brand activation, where what we do is we mobilize a small team of people internally who want to think of creative and innovative ways to take that brand and really bring it to life. And that is a huge culture movement, which is why I say that branding is 100% internal. Because if people don't know the brand, understand the brand, embrace the brand, and most importantly, believe in it, it just won't succeed. So there needs to be a large culture shift in an organization to get everybody excited about it's a brand new day. So let's take our value propositions. How do we perfect those and make them stronger than anybody else and promote the wheels off of it with a good marketing campaign?
Yeah.
So that's why I always say branding is not what's on the outside, it's all on the inside.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Great insights here. Any questions you want to ask me?
I didn't think about that, but
That's okay.
no.
I started doing that on my podcast, and it's a lot of fun, actually. And
Yeah.
I don't prep people for that, and keeps me on my toes. But yeah.
Okay, so what's your experience with branding? Because I know that you work on branding with the services that you provide. What are some experiences that you've had, some insight that you could share?
Yeah, so we won't do like a full rebrand. That's
Mhm,
not our expertise. If anything, we'll help kind of refine an
mhm,
established brand, more so on positioning statements, and
mhm,
we do a lot with brand voice, because a lot of what we're doing is content creation, and what we find, if you have multiple people touching content that's being published online, whether it's website copy, blog, social media, like there's a lot of inconsistencies. So
mhm.
creating a brand voice, which, branding is all about consistency. It's not just the logo. It's, your colors. It's how you make people feel. It's how you're influencing the perception that people have of you and your organization. So we put a lot of emphasis on the brand voice when it comes
Right.
to creating content.
Yeah, I see that I was looking at your website and you do have a very strong brand in the market, so kudos.
Thank
It's
you.
you have a great reputation.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. We just redid our website. We kind of did a
I know
soft
it's great.
launch.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, it's the whole shoemaker's kids don't wear shoes. It was about a 1.5 year project that took way longer
Yeah.
than it needed to, but yeah, I'm
It's
happy with
supposed to.
with especially when yeah.
What's
No.
wrong? What's wrong? We met our deadlines.
No, my team did a great job.
Yeah,
Fun fact, I wasn't part of the project. It was my entire team that did it.
good.
Yeah, that was great. So, all right. Well, this was a great conversation. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you jumping on, Scott. If anyone was interested in touching base with you, what's the best way that they can reach you?
Either Scott at SorokaIB.com, which I think is in your materials, or
Mm-hmm.
just that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Cool. Okay, great. We'll put this in anywhere we publish it online so people can reach out. Thanks for
Thank
attending,
you.
watching. Feel free to sign up for any future webinars at keystoneclick.com/webinars.
Thank you, Lori.